Wasn't on yet.
Okay.
Mine'd been off for a while.
And then when I went into settings, then it said Burnett Public, so it, somewhere along the line, then it did connect. So.
So no, and I tried mine, no, it wasn't, so
Mhm.
things are improving.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
That's something mine start once seems like. Morning.
Morning. Okay, it is 9 o'clock. We'll call to order the meeting of the Burnett County Land Use and Information Committee for September 3rd, 2024. Notice has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.85 open meeting law. Are there anyone here for a public comment having nothing to do with the public hearing? And I would say there's not anyone here for that, right? Continuing on, I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda order.
So moved.
Second by Supervisor Chuck Anderson, seconded by Supervisor Szymanski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes from the August 6th, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Supervisor Blomberg to approve the minutes, seconded by Supervisor Aqua Anderson. Any discussion? No further discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So on to the public hearing. Take it away, Jason.
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. The Burnett County Government Center, Room 165, Town of Mina, Cyber, Wisconsin, regarding the following Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Number 1, conditional use permit CUP 2419, Burnett County Forest. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Jackson, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Susan Tolander on behalf of the Burnett County Forest has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to develop 2 primitive campsites on the parcel with address 27600 County Road T in the F1 zoning district. 1 campsite located in Government Lot 7 and 1 campsite located in Government Lot 13, Section 31, Town 40 North, Range 15 West. Conditional use permit CUP 2423. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Cyber, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Steve Frey has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to allow outside storage of up to 500 boats on the parcel with address 8051 State Road 70 in the C1 zoning district, part of the northeast quarter, the northwest quarter, section 18, town 38 north, range 16 west.
Okay. First, conditional use permit CUP 2419, Burnett County Forest, 2 primitive sites. Susan, you want to read and run it by us?
Sure. We are requesting approval to construct 2 additional primitive campsites on county forest land in the town of Jackson. These sites would be located on the east side of Peterson Lake and the east side of North Lake. We currently have 2 in that area that are located on Bannock Lake and Keyser Lake and maintained in cooperation with Lake Country Peddlers Bike Club. Access to these sites would be non-motorized trail access, otherwise people could boat or canoe to them. As I said, they're primitive. They would just have a campfire ring, picnic table, tent pad, and a pit toilet.
These are not camper cabin sites.
No,
Have you ever contemplate doing that there? Or
it's been discussed, the possibility of constructing another camper cabin in the future and,
I don't think, the reason I asked was I don't know that would matter from our perspective if we wanted to do that. I don't think that would need another conditional use permit if they would. Jason?
Yes.
Would be an upgrade then, just thinking of uncertainty about that. Okay,
Sure.
that's the only question I have.
How does do people reserve the sites or how does that work?
Yes, they reserve them through Airbnb.
Oh.
So they're $10 a night.
And with the other sites, any issues that you're aware of or?
No, everything so far with them has been very positive, and they do see quite a bit of use throughout the summer months.
Actually, it's, if you want a tent, it's one of the only places you can anymore. That's not happening on commercial campgrounds at all. You got transient tenter or two-wheeler campers on what you do.
Mhm.
And you mentioned, it's like, what organization was it that, is it like help with maintaining them or?
So Lake Country Peddlers Bicycle Club helps do the maintenance of the other two that we have. In the past, they indicated they would be interested in assisting with these two, just cleaning and stuff, checking on them. We would confirm that with them, and if they're not interested in taking on more, then we will maintain them. But they do have a mountain bike trail system in that area.
It's just a matter of them picking up the garbage, that kind of thing. It's not much to maintain.
Right.
Kind of police, make sure no one has done anything bad there.
And people haul their own garbage out, but in case they happen to leave debris behind, okay, right.
Mhm.
You want to be sure that it's being appropriately. It's pretty low impact and just one of those things that some people still like to do. And a hard time finding a place to do it.
Not only that, if you go out fishing there during the day, you can pull in there and have a shore lunch.
Any further questions, any further discussion? I'm open for public comment. Any public here to speak on behalf of the public on this? I don't think so. So I'll close the public hearing and committee discussion. Wonderful idea as far as I'm concerned.
Would you like a motion to approve this?
Yes, I entertain a motion.
Okay, make
I was waiting for Supervisor Anderson to reassemble his sling.
Yeah, and what were some of the staff recommendations on that?
It says camping sites shall meet Wisconsin's camping requirements. Privies to obtain proper permits must provide a copy of the state campground permit to the county within 90 days of receipt and follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
So I'll make that motion to approve the conditional use permit Cup 2419, including those staff recommendations.
Motion by Supervisor Blomberg,
I'll second it.
second by Supervisor Moyer. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker is absent. Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yes,
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Locke Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conway, yes. Motion is carried. We're good to go.
Thank you.
Second one, conditional use permit 2420 for free outdoor storage in a commercial one district. Come on.
Good morning. I'm Kurt Lee. I'm in the process of purchasing Sire Marine. I have a purchase agreement for it. When I called Jason to talk about putting up a fence, that's when I found out that there was no conditional use permit to have as many boats as he's been having on the property. So that's what this is for. So we're allowed to have up to 400 boats. I think he's been storing up to 300 there now. And right away, my first thing to do is I want to clean up the property, get a nice fence in front of it and make it so it doesn't look like a blue tarp world. So, but I'm also, I don't wanna purchase a property if I don't know that I can have the boats or what he has been storing.
So we want to essentially bring it into compliance. is what
Yes.
You're looking to do.
And then you're just said then there'd be another 200 votes maybe?
The maximum would be 400 that would fit on the lot, maximum.
Okay.
But I think he's just not allowed to have, I think 40 now is what I was told.
I'm sorry, but
I think right now he's only allowed to have 40 on the property or something, but even though last year he did store 300.
no, I understand. So you see the town is in support. It's probably a good time to look into some of the issues we were talking about with navigability and navigable water body.
Yeah,
It looks to me like that's the question, it's navigable to my
Yeah.
mind. But just for your own information, if it has a defined bed and banks and is navigable, in fact, on a recurring basis, doesn't even have to be every year. It falls under the Crandon Mine Supreme Court decision in the state of Wisconsin, so it's the navigable water body.
And like I said, I have no problem saying that from finding the high water marks and saying 50 feet away, that's not an issue at all.
And that we need some, according to what Jason has said, I've noticed too, we need some restoration of vegetation.
yeah, I think there was a few spots where he maybe got a little close, where he cut some vegetation a little close to that, so. You know, I think if we just leave some of it go, don't mow it,
Let it come back.
let it come back, is gonna be fine.
That's, you know, I mean, it's sort of like, this is for water equipment.
Mhm.
People, like we keep the water maintained properly and it doesn't take much to be a navigable water body. There is no minimum size for a lake in Wisconsin under the law. So I think just so you understand why we're gonna make you do
Oh, I
this.
totally understand. And I know before I would start placing boats anywhere, I would make sure I knew exactly where the high water marks were and because there's enough property there to not have to get close to it.
And the good news is with the recent high water, not in a couple of dry years, now it's dropped, but you can pretty much see that where that ordinary high is there, I would think. Safe to say, Jason, I didn't go look.
Yeah, it's pretty evident on the aerial photo, you can kind of see where the vegetation.
I'm thinking on the site itself, it's probably pretty enough of a bank or enough of a change of vegetation.
Change in vegetation is pretty evident, yeah.
That'll be the key point. And again, Jason can find time. I'm kind of kidding when I say this, but the county is who supported by DNR who makes that call. So if you disagree with the county's call, you're gonna ask DNR, it's probably gonna not be any different.
I know I won't have any problems keeping boats away from what is the appropriate spot.
I think, it's unfortunate in the way that you're the guy who has to clean up after the seller, but at the same time, somebody's gotta have a place to store boats somewhere and it's been completely.
And then it looks like there was some sign violations that look like they're being resolved.
Yes, there was yes, the prior or the current owner also applied for a permit to get the signage fixed and all that, so, yep.
So we're in the process of bringing everything into compliance.
Yes.
Okay, I think we'll open a public hearing now. And then just sit in the front, so in case you have to come back. Yeah, open a public hearing. Is anyone here, Town of Siren, speak to it a little?
We discussed it at a meeting and we were fine. I sent a letter.
Yeah, we have the letter.
Yes.
And just in case there's anything you wanted to add beyond that.
No, we're satisfied with what we know. So,
Okay, good enough. No one else being present, I'll close the public hearing. And open it for committee discussion.
And you get, not that there should be or anything, but emergency vehicles can get in and out of there. say something happened, somebody putting a boat in there and the thing falls on them or something. Or anything can happen.
Yes, I mean, the road going back there is plenty sufficient for. You could drive a semi back if you wanted.
Any further discussion on?
The only other thing I noted was there was a big pile of tires out there. I'm guessing that's what he set the boats on.
That's just sets of boats on.
I don't know if those were going away, you're gonna keep them or what,
They
they're
will
all,
be used under the pontoons and
yeah,
as long as it goes where I would be piling them out in the shed.
oh, okay, yeah,
That's one thing I don't understand. We got a huge shed out there. It'd be better to keep them in the shed throughout the summer. So, yeah, the tires will not be there.
One of the concerns about it. Tire pile outside, not to, other than it catching fire, is mosquitoes.
Yes, I know. There's all full of water and full of bugs, so that's why I would definitely have them inside.
Make that another condition that the tires be stored indoors to avoid that.
good.
You're gonna do it anyway.
He's verbally said it, the meeting's being recorded, so
Either
if he
way,
didn't do it, we could call him back here, but. Yeah,
You wouldn't mind that as a condition to store the tires inside, right?
I don't mind. That's where I would rather put them anyhow.
You may
It's just that throughout the time, I mean, there's gonna be a time span when you're picking up boats, you know, part of the boats are picked up. I'm probably not gonna put the tires in until all the boats are picked up and all the boats are out of the shed.
understand.
So, or not all, but maybe, you know, 3 days, you know, I don't wanna.
But it's not like you're gonna, it might not be out and get rained on, but I mean, it's persistent through the whole warm months that becomes an issue.
Would rather not have them there. Easier to mow without them there too.
Yeah, I think that's, as long as that's the case, but we'll see if we wanna do that when we get to that point. Any further discussion? If more to add, Jason?
no,
Committee, any further discussion?
I guess, you know, from the staff report and, you know, talks about buffer to remain around all wetlands. Would that just be covered by, you know,
condition number 1 would cover that.
right, okay. Established and maintained, okay.
Getting myself caught back up.
Yeah, number 3 on the staff recommendation does address tires. That could be modified from all tires to be disposed of properly.
Let's put stored. We can amend that when we get to
Yeah.
that point, but let's make that all tires to be
What would you recommend?
properly stored.
Stored or disposed.
Right.
Stored or disposed.
Yeah.
Just add the properly stored or disposed of. Makes sense.
So I'll read the 4 conditions. How's that? So number 1 would be if the wetland is in fact a navigable body of water, then all items be stored at least 50 feet from the ordinary high water mark of this pond, and vegetation be established and maintained within 50 feet of the ordinary high water mark of this pond. Number 2, follow all sign regulations. Number 3, all tires to be stored or disposed of properly. And number 4, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
Right. So we've amended the conditions. Do you want a motion for that amendment? Or just on the fly, we did that. So
Yep.
now we have changed it. Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions that Jason read.
Motion by Supervisor Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Moyer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Locke Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conroy, yes. Chuck, who was it?
And then,
Supervisor Blomberg, I'm sorry. Did I
that's fine. I'll vote yes.
did I miss you last time?
Got him last time.
Good, sorry about that. Okay, so you're approved with, as conditions we set.
Thank you very much.
Next item is to review the landscape screening plan for Cup 2412. Burnett County Storage LLC.
So you should have that in your packet. And looks like the town of Webb Lake reviewed it. As well, got an email in there from them.
And,
Can I comment or are we, not yet?
no, this is not a public hearing. This is just a committee.
Mhm.
So, yes, go ahead.
I'm not inclined to do anything with it. There's no measurements. There's really not anything stating he's actually gonna do anything. It's an intention. There's no dimensions. I'm not sure that the trees he's proposing actually provide screening.
Well, the staggered row part is along 77 is good, but it doesn't stagger them along Deer Lake Road.
And-
That's not quite as enough, I think, in that portion.
But
Um,
I don't know the dimensions and white pines, I mean, when I look them, I mean, you had suggested some trees that would be appropriate for screening, and I know it's hard to grow things there. And I'm just going back to, in June, when he was presenting, we had people here from the public that were showing his parts of his presentation from his original plan, where he did not follow through on the screening that he promised then. So I'm just concerned, he didn't follow through the first time. I'm not necessarily confident, especially with the lack of detail in this plan, that it's gonna follow through this time.
Any further comment?
So let's see, you mentioned you didn't have any measurements. I can kind of estimate here. Cause he shows basically the trees are gonna line up with the building that's there. And pretty much go almost across the whole shop.
To the corner of the other shop.
Yeah, so if I kind of. Let's see, I can go on the aerial real quick and measure that distance, then we'd be able to know how many trees,
What the density
what the
is?
spacing is essentially, yeah.
And I'm trying to remember what he promised the first time around in his presentation.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Well, because, if that in fact becomes part of the record, we should have access to it somewhere. Would it be via recording or?
Yeah, it'd be,
You
yeah,
don't have a transcript.
correct.
I know White Pines, one thing good about White Pines, I didn't think about this before when I said no ways and spruces or balsams, but White Pines tend to want to be a ball, they're out in the open. So for that reason, they'd be one of the good trees to do it. The thing about it is when they get taller, that's what the old inverted triangle aspect for shelter belt sort of thing was the firs and spruces are triangles this way, and the white pines and the wood pines are more like this way, right? So if you want to block wind or block vision, having alternating rows of different trees helps that. That's the only thing.
Yeah, as white pines get older, then the lower branches disappear and.
And you just have.
And self-prune.
So.
No screening then.
The screening gets thinner as they get bigger.
So
But
that,
yeah, like to the two row thing would be somewhat helpful.
Yeah, eventually, trees always gonna grow and need to be maintained when one dies or blows down or whatever, but But it's, that, all I'm, when I talk about that, it's just the old guidance for a shelter belt, really. Really, that was the guidance for that, and it works pretty good to block vision too.
So that distance that he's showing for planting trees is approximately 320 feet. So he's got 10 per row, so he's basically got them every 30 feet, then staggered. So you'd have
15 feet.
15, if you were standing on the highway, you'd have a tree essentially every 15 feet.
When they get, when they grow somewhat bigger, they will probably be, you know, if they all live and all that,
There's essentially no screening for probably 10 years.
yeah, not much for a while. Depends on how big they plant.
Well, he was saying actually some pretty decent trees, didn't it say like 7 to 9 foot? or
Five
to seven.
5 to 7? It's actually,
I know it's bigger, again, the tiny little bit of experience I have with that, the bigger they are, the harder they are to keep alive and the longer, the more watering it takes. There's a kind of a sweet spot for them to establish low grass. But I think that the numbers is probably not that bad, density wise, if they're fairly good, it's gonna take a while. To screen.
And does this really state that he's? I mean, if they die, is he replacing? I mean, just based on his previous promises that he didn't follow through on.
I mean, are we gonna require every commercial entity to have screening that you can't see what they do?
I was just trying to honor what the previous committee, his previous, I mean, that's a different discussion in my mind. You know, someone already made a decision, a previous committee already requested this and he already made a previous promise. And I was just that, if we wanna, as a committee, decide we don't require it, I think that's a different story. I mean, do we just redo the?
I mean, if I recall from what they, before they basically just said they were gonna plant trees along Highway 77, right? And he's planting 20 trees alongside there. To me, that seems good. We have a letter from the town of Webb Lake that
They're
approves
satisfied.
the plan.
But I would suggest, he says he's willing to invest in an additional 15 as needed. So I would think we would wanna add trees on the east-west line, I mean, along where he's showing a single row, we should make a double row there. Too. And that would satisfy the concern of the public and the side. As long as he's
Around the
along,
corner, you mean?
yeah, to the north-south view.
so where there's 5 trees on Deer Lake Road, that should really be 10, a double row there as well.
Yes, double row there, and then I'd run that back by him, if I want him to agree to it. That we believe there should be a double row along Deer Lake Road as well. And that we would prefer a mix, not strictly all white pines. Couple of reasons. One is that white pines are not as tough as red pines or balsams, and they might lose some, but I'd like to see some firs mixed in one of the rows to make a more opaque screen. That's just my opinion.
Does the plan specify to establish and maintain screening? I mean,
Well, that's what our conditions do.
Yeah, trying to see here,
And I wouldn't hurt to remind him of that. I'm just wondering why he picked all white pines. Usually you can get Norways. Red pines seem to be better adapted to sand.
I wonder if some people think white pines live longer maybe, so you think you get them, you're good for 100 years then? I
or
don't
might
know.
just have access to, that might be what he has access to.
But it's I'd say we should tell them so that we want them to double the row along the west line. And we prefer a more of a mix of white pines and some maybe red pines and some fir of either spruce or balsam. To make a more opaque screen and better chance of survivability. You know, white pines will grow down in swamps and whatnot. They've got a more spread root system. Red pines are more like carrots, go deeper and survive better in sandy soil, I think.
Yeah, especially in the case of a really high wind.
Yeah, and really sandy, I mean, that, you keep in mind, that place, the top soil was scalped off for the 77 reconstruction project, used to be a hill there. So anything that was any sort of developed soil is long gone. It's just sand like you see 15 feet down.
Sandbox, you know.
So it's really sandy. I'd like to see this work for him. Really, he may be not thinking in that term, but
Does he have a means to water them? Because I think newly planted trees need to be watered a couple times a week.
oh yeah.
He has a well there and he has,
The well was there, but there wasn't a septic yet because there was a holding tank.
septic is there, but it's not connected or
It's
being
plumbing.
serviced, yeah.
But as long as he has water, he'll need to be, I think if we need, and the one thing more we need to add is it needs to be clear that it isn't just plant them and you're done. They have to
Establish and
survive,
maintain.
survivability and maintenance is required as part of this agreement. So that's what I would recommend we say. Generally, he's making an effort. I'm good with that. I think it needs to be a little bit beefed up.
But I do agree with you, Randy. It's like, are we going to require that? I was just trying to honor his original promise
Yeah, I'm trying to
that he
find
made.
the
that-
original one.
That was before we were on the committee. In the July minutes would have been our June discussion, but his original one was before any of us were on the, well, you were probably around. But Chuck, do you remember?
Right.
Yeah, I've been on this since 2006.
Like, we were just that we required screening and he was gonna come back and show us what kind of screening.
Well, we had left that fairly open back then but it's changed hands and other things have happened. since the original approval. So, that's how these things get lost in the shuffle sometimes too.
Well, I just know at the public hearing in June, people had, brought copies of his presentation. With what he was saying he was gonna do.
But we can try to check this against that. But I think for the most part, I think he's in the right direction, but I think he needs a little more thickening.
Yeah, when he goes to plant the trees, what if had them take and put better soil in the bottom of the root system, so they've got a little better head start instead of just putting a root ball right into the sand.
Yeah, you're right. But if it was me, that's what I would want to do. But I don't know if we're gonna tell him how he has to plant them exactly.
Right.
But the tree spades. If you dig the hole and then throw some topsoil type in there, drop it in that just to slow the water down. It's just a lens of tighter soil to keep it from soaking right through would help. No doubt
Right.
about that. But whether that can be, hopefully there's some good soil in wherever he gets the trees with that root ball, but it's hard.
Way back, his original presentation had a slide in it that said, we want to be good neighbors. We plan to ensure the property is visually appropriate by planting trees along the north-south roadway as well as on the property itself. We'll be adding trees along State Highway 77 right away.
So he's talking about that. Deer Lake Road alignment.
Right. So I mean, he's doing both of those things now.
I think we just want him to beef up that west line a bit.
Yeah. And I would agree to those. I think makes sense.
Can we captured enough to tell him what we want him to?
Well, so I think you guys want another 5 along Deer Lake Road, so it'd be a double row essentially, and then do you also prefer a mix of trees, some sort of fir type?
Yeah. That's
So it should be like half could be white pine and then the other half would be
should
some
be
fir.
other type of tree,
that-
white pine or red pine.
Yeah.
Put in there too.
And I think it's important to stay, establish and maintain.
Yep, and then maintain,
Clear that they have to
Yep.
be maintained and survive. If they don't, those that
Yep.
die need to be replaced. Because it's hard to transplant that many trees and have them all live. We all know that. Trying to keep buck deer from rubbing their antlers on.
So another 5 along Deer Lake Road, so it's 2 rows, prefer a mix, could be one half, what he has, and then the other half should be a fir type tree. And then establish and maintain the vegetation or the trees.
And we're good with a target date of next spring, I think you wanted to say, didn't he? Plant till spring and summer of 2025. Sometimes it's a good time to plant them in the fall if you can. Yeah. Then they go dormant and they start growing in the spring, but then maybe may not be able to get it done by that fast. So. Any further discussion? Motion to make that recommendation.
I'll motion that.
Motion by Randy to go with the recommendation that Jason just quoted. Second.
I'll second it.
Second by the lawyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That didn't need a roll call. It's just guidance to try to get it done. Okay. Request to approve filling the zoning specialist position.
Yeah, so this one, Grant, in our office, he left, I think he was here about 6 months. He's going into, construction, type, trade. So yeah, need to fill that. So we got 3 openings in our department right now. Yeehaw. So,
And stuff.
yeah.
Is it, did he acquire all his credentials or is,
No, he was in the process of trying to get them. Yeah.
and that's because the other issue is lack of credentials.
Yep.
And not everybody comes with them anymore.
No, we pretty much train everyone or get them.
I agree.
Would you like a motion on that?
Yes.
Motion to approve filling the zoning specialist position.
Motion by Supervisor
Second.
Miller, seconded by Supervisor Anderson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Land service property and.
All right,
and
so-
zoning division reports.
Reports are in there. What staff have been working on, budget report is in there, nothing really out of line. Everything's pretty much on track, the only one line item that's a little bit out or looks a little bit funny is the address assignment supplies. That one we're 13,000 over budget, but that's just because we have to pre-buy everything now and then we bill it to the townships. Whereas before we used to, when we'd order the address signs, the vendor would directly bill to the townships. Now they have to bill the county and then we have to send a bill to the township. So we have to pre-buy them essentially, but we get reimbursed for it, but
It's a in and out.
yes. Yeah,
Really, the townships were a little slow paying now.
yeah, they're pretty good.
So do we buy a whole bunch all at once then and?
Yeah, so we do 2 orders a year essentially. Well, and plus the reason this one's so big is the town of Roosevelt, I think, ordered 500 signs because they're replacing all theirs.
Okay.
So,
They put their order in with us, how many they want.
or when people apply for a new address, then it goes through us, so.
Right.
Cause we switched, we used to go through Lang Enterprises, used to be all of our signs in the past. And then a year or so ago, we switched to the prisoners now make them for us, Badger State Industries.
The
so-
license plate people.
The license plate, apparently they do signs too, so, but they will only bill one vendor. Is what, and they said we are not gonna where Lang would send 21 bills out.
Yeah.
They said, nope, we're gonna bill one vendor, so the bill has to come to us and then we have to.
Essentially, it's
Saves
just
them
that
time in accounting.
Exactly,
we're still the billing and the process to the towns is all the same. They just pay us instead of Lake.
yeah,
So same in
yeah,
their point of view.
yeah.
So do we get a bulk discount?
Well, it's a lot cheaper going through Badger State Industries, than Lang.
Have we been doing that though with the flat reflectorized signs? Lang's used to be the embossed signs back in the day.
Yeah, well, Lang switched to
We
the,
switched to
they were doing the
reflector.
flag one too.
I wasn't sure.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I don't know the prices off the top of my head, but it is substantially. And plus, the Badger State charges, shipping is built into the price of the sign, whereas Lang, the shipping was extra. So you had a fee and then you never really knew what the shipping cost was until they shipped it, so quite a bit cheaper, so,
Good.
you know.
Kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
All parties.
Yep, works out.
But other than that, there's no line items that are out of whack anywhere else. Permit numbers are in there. 1,200 permits already this year. Lots of things
Nibbling
going
at 300 sanitary permits, probably, aren't we?
on. Probably, yeah. Yeah.
It's always my measure of busy is that
Mhm.
still.
Yeah. Lots of variances, 25 variances this year so far, so. Yeah, lots of things going on. Other than that, nothing else exciting, other than trying to find some employees.
That'll be the tricky part.
Yep.
I got a call from the Portage County County Board Chair. He wants Sean and I to come and visit with him and talk about ag
Oh,
amendments.
well, it's kind of hard for Sean to come there when Sean doesn't work here anymore.
You know, it's his father happens to be the county conservationist of Portage County. so
Okay, yeah,
There's a little connection with that, but
Yeah.
for the how we did it, I
yes.
said, yeah, I'll,
Mhm.
talk with Nate a little bit. I said, I promise not to do anything to sully the name of Burnett County if I go down and talk, but other than that.
Yep.
It is interesting only from a perspective of in another example of where we were ahead of the curve on other people are wanting to figure out how we succeeded in doing it.
Well, they got, that's sand country over there too, I believe,
Yeah,
the,
he's
yeah.
very, he's I can't think of the correct term, but a kind of a geoscientist,
Okay.
geological background. So glacial landscape and all that, he understands, he's really a lot like you guys. And have only one really big CAFO, but some other pressures. And how'd you do that? And Sean already talked to him about he's on board.
Yeah.
With that. So it's kind of your job now with TU too, isn't it? So he agreed. So we'll see. We haven't set anything up yet. I just thought it's interesting little sidebar to the whole thing. Every now and then we do something that gets other people's attention.
Yep.
Future agenda items.
Well, there's 2 public hearings for next month. And I think, so that's all I would have on the agenda.
Anything of controversial nature?
Gravel pit in the town of Lincoln. So, but I mean, we had Matthew's gravel pit the other month and that. And I mean, we need gravel, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
it's pretty hard to, and gravel is where you find it. It's not everywhere.
yep. So that one might be the only one that, when the other one's like a food truck / home occupation type thing, so.
So that makes perfect sense.
And at some point, I'd like either education or discussion or just on, enforcement and, because when I'm looking at, the public hearing items, conditional uses, Board of Adjustment, it looks like, pretty much everything gets approved, if people build something, in the lake, it's like ask for forgiveness after the fact. And I guess I'd just like to have a discussion on that. People seem to think they can do anything without a permit. And I'd just like to have that discussion. And I know we may not have enforcement and whatever, but it might just be education, something in the tax bills or a billboard saying, hey, check to see if you need a permit.
Extra billboards up.
Yeah, and as we don't allow new billboards, we probably don't want to advertise on a billboard, so probably wouldn't look too good, but.
The one comment, and I know you do this too, and I used to too, if somebody came in with something that we didn't think the board would approve, we can't tell them no. But we can say, you're gonna spend $500 or whatever it is, but not much likelihood of success. So, but that never gets noticed, but that does happen too sometimes.
Yeah.
But actually, the county is planning to do public education through the tax bills.
Yes, they just did a LEADS project, I think, right, from the admin committee that some of my staff has put together for something in the tax bill, a flyer. To try to help get ahead of that, but yeah, it's a tough issue. I don't know how to get ahead of it.
To me, it's almost like consistent parenting, it's like if they think it's gonna be enforced, they might follow the rules, but.
I'll just throw this in as a kind of a semi-wisecrack, but it's sort of true. Because every now and then we need somebody in cuffs before the judge that, did violate and did pay for it. But then the gossip spreads and people get concerned.
Well, and I mean, I'll just anecdotally tell you, one of the variances last month, the concrete guy didn't pull a permit. The homeowner said he asked, did you get a permit? Yeah, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Well, turns out after the fact, he didn't. Then apparently the homeowner was talking to some other neighbors and they're like, oh yeah, that guy, he never gets permits for anything. But so you have contractors, I'm guessing out there that just do what they want and we go after the homeowner. Cause the homeowner is ultimately responsible for it.
But that's
So-
something zoning people have discussed for years too. I hadn't thought about to mention that, but why can't we cite the contractor, but it's not really who's responsible.
Yep.
And try, but they're gonna get away because they're gonna say, well, no, the homeowner said I could, and you can't prove it,
The he said, she said thing, so.
Be a land violation, all this lands on the landowner.
Yep.
It's sort of like the guy today who is buying a place that has some violations and he wants to get it brought into compliance. It's not his fault, he's the buyer, right?
And speaking of that, did you see my email in there? Like a year and a half ago, we tried to tell him, you got violations out here, get it resolved, get it resolved. Silent until he goes to sell it. Oh my gosh, I gotta get it resolved now. So, I mean, that was one too, where we told them, get these things resolved, get it resolved, and they just don't care.
So what is the result? I mean, if there's no consequence.
Yeah.
And I know that maybe they're here, that's the discussion I'd like to
Yeah.
have, because it just seems like, is it creating more work?
Let's put it, let's entitle that, if we put that on an item for discussion a little bit, something about enforcement issues, something. Just
Yeah.
not no vague.
Yeah.
And we can chat about it some more, we can kind of look at some, maybe bring out, I wanna be careful about doing this. On the record, so to speak, for privacy issues, but if we wanted to talk about some examples of where people came into compliance, but it didn't show. It's similar to the issue with the court where a whole bunch of violations are read in as dismissed and that's what's in the paper and people don't realize that guy was convicted of 2 or 3 months ago. Serious offenses, but these others were read in for the record, right? But nobody knows about what really happened.
Yeah.
It would be maybe a way we could figure out to discuss some examples for the committees.
Well, I could talk about the court process too. We have one right now that's going on 2 years. We're in court. 2 years trying to get it resolved.
Well, maybe the only way we could do that properly would be to publish it as a closed session for discussion of legal issues. And then have our court counsel here to discuss some of this stuff. If it's a fairly light agenda, that might be a way to put together a little something on that. That might be.
I think so, because I don't wanna squawk about things when I don't have all the details and I would just like to flesh out my knowledge on, and maybe it's more education for the public.
Good for the committee too. good for all of us, I think, to have that discussion, but. Yeah, I'm always really cautious about mentioning names and stuff like that. inside the notes. But something that's already in process or,
Yeah. Well, I can speak about cases without saying the names or addresses, I can.
Well, let's
Yeah.
look at that. See what we think and then put together just some little discussion because I think everybody'd be up to speed and more comfortable with it, knowing what's going on. A lot of times it's not really in public view very much, even for us.
Yeah.
Can we make sure whatever thing we're gonna put in the tax statement, that there's some statement in there about it's not, if you hire a contractor, it's not their responsibility to pull a permit, it's yours.
Yeah, I can see they put together, I think they had a kind of a sample for what they were gonna do. I didn't review their stuff too much because I wanted them to go it alone essentially for their leads project, so. Yeah, we can look at what the specific wording is there.
Only because everybody I've talked to who's had an issue, that's the first thing they bring up is, well, I hired a contractor. I'm like, you're responsible, it's your property. And they're like, well, but they should know. I go, they probably do know better, but that doesn't matter.
But you need to ask.
Exactly.
And I could say that,
Yeah.
you need to ask.
Yeah, you need to verify, and it's ultimately your responsibility to pull the permit.
A very good point.
Yeah, everybody falls back on that one.
I think the idea was there were going to be a number of different flyers. They wouldn't be the same each year. And then covering various topics and whatever. Perhaps all of those could be posted on the website.
Yeah.
Public.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure once we had it created, we would post, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
then people could review
Mhm.
the
I think that
totality.
idea of putting something in the tax bill is a
Yeah,
fantastic idea.
Yep. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Everybody looks at that piece of paper for sure.
Yeah. And they're gonna at least get it. Well,
Yeah.
no, they got it. It's but there's so much of that. Well, I never saw that or I never didn't get there or whatever. They didn't tell me. All that was kind of a waste.
well, I'll give you another example, just real quick here. I was sent 2 violation letters to this guy about an issue. Never heard from him, never resolved any, never did anything. Sent him a citation, then he calls me up. It's like, what's going on? I said, well, didn't you get my other letters? Well, yeah. Well, you never reached out to me. You didn't do anything different. You just waited till you got a citation.
Well, and that's what'd be nice to eliminate is to streamline that because, you're spending a lot of time until,
Yeah.
oh, well, they mean it.
Yeah.
And it's like, can we streamline that and maybe,
So see, that guy who got that citation is now talking about how he got a citation. So
Yeah.
some people have been informed because of that, It's sort of like I wonder sometimes what the speed limit on A is, because I'm going more than I should be on the speed limit and I get past like a dirty shirt pretty often. Or a double yellow line by the sandbar because I was going 35 and this where the speed limit is and the guy wanted to go 50 through there, right? But till that guy gets a ticket, he's gonna keep doing it, right? Sort of similar.
Yeah,
Anyway, enough of that for now, but let's put together a little bit more organized discussion. And if
That's a good idea.
we want to talk about anything specific, then we can't, I don't think we want to do that on the record. We can do that in a session. Because it may be litigation we might.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion. Supervisor.
Second.
Or no, Supervisor Moyer.
Either way.
Who did it? Anderson.
He did it. I
Second. Okay, make it work. All in favor? You're adjourned.
Actually, if you get down to the end of your agenda, and you have no other things to talk about. Just adjourn. You don't even have to have.